Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're beginning with chapter 27, verse 12. We actually read these psukim yesterday. It's the description of the blessings and the curses at Har Grizim and Har Eval. And just to highlight the questions that we left off with yesterday, in verse 12, when it talks about the blessing, it says, these will stand to bless. And in verse 13, when it talks about the curses, it says, these will stand on the curse. It's also interesting, the Torah recounts what the curses are, and we're supposed to surmise that the blessings are the flip of them, but it's just interesting, the Torah says one and not the other. So let's see the Kliyakar. Kliyakar on Pasuk Yud Beis. Eila yamdu levareches ha'am. Uveklalos lo ne'amar eila yamdu lekalel. By the curses, it doesn't say these will stand to curse. It says these will stand on the curse. Lefi, shatovos bos ma'es Hashem befall. When we're talking about good things, we're talking about blessings, they come very actively and very directly from God. Avala klolos einam boim ki me'atzmam. This is a complicated thing to think about, but the Kliyakar says that the way we look at curses is it's more that it's not that God is actively punishing us, it's more that God is turning away and allowing events to take over. It's a different way of looking at the pasuk, but at least one way of looking at the pasuk is that bad things don't come from God. So blessings come directly from God. The bad things, it's more like God turns aside and allows bad things to happen. And therefore, says the Kliyakar, it says these ones will stand on the curse, not saying to curse. They're making statements warning the Jewish people that if they do certain things, klalos will come, bad things will come, but they don't want to curse because God's not going to curse the person. God's just going to allow bad things to happen. So therefore, the language also is on the curse, like to warn about bad things. Maybe something bad will happen, maybe it won't. Being that we're saying that it's not that God is actively bringing the bad thing, it's that God is turning away and allowing bad things to happen. Maybe circumstances will dictate that the bad thing happens, maybe it won't. So they're just talking about the possibility as opposed to actively saying bad things will happen. That which it says, the curses, and we just have to sort of figure out what the blessings are. A very interesting thing to think about. The greatest blessing that God can give us involves the next world. In other words, God can help us win the lottery in this world, or God could give us remarkable things in the world to come. The world to come is even better. And what happens in the world to come is we don't know exactly what it is. We don't see exactly, certainly not in this world. And the greatest bracha he could give us in this world, the greatest bracha he could give us is in the world to come. And the other aspects of bracha that he could give us in this world really are bracha that will help us fulfill the mitzvos in this world, so that we'll merit more brachos. And therefore suggests the Kliyakar that's why the blessings are sort of hidden here, because the greatest blessings are not things that we can necessarily see in this world. So he says another thing that we're alluding to here is that it could always be that things that start off bad could turn good. V'yod Ramas, another thing we're alluding to, shabracha b'chlalu arurim, that the blessing is within the curse. Kimei acher sha'klala haisasiba shemi yirasa bali de'sur me'ravasi tov imkein pas haklalos nimshechu brachos. The last point that he makes is, truth be told, the curses are a blessing in their own right. How could you say that the curses are a blessing? Well, if a person has difficult things happen to them or is afraid of difficult things happening to them, and that inspires them to do tshuva and be better, so then there was a very great silver lining in that curse. So the implication is that the curses actually carry blessing and curse with them. So that's why, sort of like when we talk about the curses, it's a little bit of both. So the primary answers that he's giving are that we don't talk about the brachos explicitly because we don't see the brachos explicitly. The primary blessing is in the world to come, and then the other thing is that the curses have blessing in them. That's okay. Let's now go on to verse 26. There's a whole list of curses here, as we mentioned in the discussion yesterday. Afterwards, generally speaking, these curses are connected to bad things that people would normally do in private. And the last one is Arura shir lo yokim es divrei Torah azos la'asososam. Cursed is the one who will not uphold the words of this Torah to do. V'yamar kol ha'am amen. And that's how all these things. There's a curse stated by the Kohanim in the middle, and then all the nation says amen. This is an interesting one. The other ones are very specific. Cursed is someone who secretly strikes his friend. Cursed is someone who takes bribery. Cursed is someone who sleeps with another person. They're prohibited from sleeping with. I'm just giving a few examples. This seems extremely general, so general that it's even difficult to understand what we're talking about. Curse is the one who doesn't uphold the Torah. What does that mean? Ramban on Pasuk Chavav, Arura Shir Lo Yakim Es Divrei Torah Azos. He starts off citing Rashi. Kan Kol Alas Kol Torah. Rashi says this is a reference to the entire Torah. So cursed be the person who doesn't observe the entire Torah. And so the point, according to Rashi, is that we give 10 specific examples, and then we say a catch-all. And by the way, this curse applies to people who don't keep any part of the Torah. So that's we say specific ones that hopefully will jump out at people and resonate with people, or maybe are more pressing matters. But then this is a catch-all language. That's how Rashi understands it. Ulefi dati, the Ramban says, I think the pshat is ki ha'kabbalah azos, that this lesson sheyodeh b'mitzvos belibo v'yiu be'einav emes. This message is that a person should accept the mitzvos and see the mitzvos as being true. Yamin, that a person should believe. Sha'osa son yelo schara tova, that a person who does the mitzvos will get rewarded. V'over aleim yeyanesh, and a person who violates the commandments of Hashem will be punished. V'im yichbor ba'achas mehan, and if a person denies the truth of any of the mitzvos, otia be'einav b'teila liolam, or he says, this mitzvah, it's not relevant. Hinehu arur, there is a curse upon him. So, whereas Rashi says that the idea is this is just, hey, you're cursed if you don't keep the Torah, the Ramban says we're talking about something else here. We're talking about accepting the truth of everything in the Torah. And that, theoretically speaking, you could have a person, by the way, who actually observes the mitzvah, but doesn't accept it as being from God, or does it because they think it's just the right way to be, but they don't believe that it makes sense that God would instruct this, and they don't agree that God instructed this. Ironically, according to Rashi, they're doing what they're supposed to do. According to the Ramban, that is what the curse is about, that they're not accepting the veracity of the Torah, of even one small aspect of the Torah. Aval im avar alachas mehen kagon she'achal chasir v'asheket sasav aso o shelo asalo lulav osuka ba'atzla eino b'chirim hazeh. Okay. So the Ramban says the language here is very interesting. It doesn't say cursed be the one who doesn't do the Torah. It says cursed be the one who doesn't uphold the Torah. So he says the fact that it doesn't say cursed be the one who doesn't do the Torah, the Ramban says, I don't think we're talking about performance or lack thereof. I think we're talking about this idea of philosophical acceptance. The Ramban says, let's say I had a person who believes that God doesn't want him to eat pork, and accepts as being a mitzvah of God. And he's on a trip, and he has a weak moment, and he's starving, and he can't find anything except pork. So if he eats pork, so he did an Aveira, the Ramban says, I don't think this curse applies to him. Now, if a person says, I'm going to eat a ham sandwich because I think it's preposterous that God would say I can't eat a ham sandwich, the curse does apply to him because he's not accepting the veracity of it. That's the point the Ramban makes. Okay, skipping a line or so. For Yerushalmi Besota Ra'isi, Asher Lo Yakim, V'chi Yesh Torah Nofeles. Gemara asked the Gemara, and Yerushalmi asked the question, what do you mean, cursed be the one who doesn't hold up the Torah? Is there such a thing as the Torah falling? What does that mean? Reb Shimon ben Yakim Omer Ze Achazan. Reb Shimon ben Yakim says this refers to the person leading the services, which we'll explain more soon. Reb Shimon ben Chalafta Omer Ze Bezdin Shel Matan. Reb Shimon ben Chalafta says this refers to rabbinic court. Demar Rav Yehuda Rav Huna b'Shem Shmuel Aladavar Ze. Sorry. In other words, so he says that it has to do with people who are in a position of communal authority, not doing what they can to make sure that the community keeps the Torah properly. So, and if they don't, then they're cursed. They're cursed for not doing their job. And now he cites the famous story regarding Yoshiyahu, that because of this Yoshiyahu, who was a king, who had started very young as king of the Jewish people, and there's this whole fascinating story that he was brought into the Beis HaMikdash. They came across the Torah in the Beis HaMikdash, and it was open to this pasuk. And he heard this, and he tore his garments. V'omar, alai lahakim. It's upon me to uphold this Torah. So when he heard, cursed be the one who doesn't uphold the Torah, he said, wow, God's talking to me because I'm the king of Israel. So that's like this similar idea of a person who's in a position of authority who can make a difference. Reb Acha b'shem Reb Tanchum bar Chia, Lomad v'limeid, v'shamar v'asa. Let's say a person studied Torah, a person taught Torah, a person observed the commandments. A person learned, taught, observed, but he could have strengthened the Torah in some way, and he declines to do it. He's also included in this curse. Let's say a person was righteous in his own personal life, and he could have done something to stop. He could have done something to stop others from violating the Torah, and he declines. That is the person. That is the curse that we're talking about. So Rashi says that we're talking about just the general observance of the Torah. The Ramban's first pshat is that we're talking about acceptance of the validity of everything in the Torah. And now he says, and the Ramban says this is not so different. He cites Yerushalmi that it's talking about people in positions of authority doing whatever they can to see to it that the Torah is kept appropriately. And now we also had this quote that referred to the Chazan, who's a person who's leading services in Shul, Sheinu Mekim Sivrei Torah, that doesn't uphold the Torah, La'amidan Kesikran Shlo Yipol, to make sure they don't fall. V'linira, the Ramban says, I think what that means is Al Chazan Sheinu Mekim Sefer Torah Al Tzibur, Laharos Pnei Ksavo Lakol. It's talking about the fellow who does Hagbah, who doesn't show the writing of the Torah to everybody. You know, it's supposed to be that the person opens it nice and wide and turns all around so that people can see it. Etc. Because everyone is supposed to see the writing of the Torah and bow and say V'zos HaTorah. So that's just a very interesting pshat. Mesia pause for a moment before being asked to do Hakba, but definitely something to think about. So we had the Kli Yakar on the blessings and the curses, and we had the Ramban and Rashi, the Yerushalmi, on what we're talking about, cursed be the one who doesn't uphold the Torah.